Monday. What's going on? It's your man Louie T here on the latest installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I thank you guys for joining me today. Got a couple of topics that I want to discuss with you guys on the show today, so we'll get to those. Want to talk NBA Finals real quick, and then I want to talk about whatever it is you guys want to talk about. Also, we're going to wrap the show up with a topic that we've talked about before, but I think we're starting to get some clarity on it. And I think we all knew that it was going to go in that direction, but and nothing's been finalized, but they're leaning towards that direction. Go figure. All of that and more here on the latest installment of the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 341st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. I want to start off the show today by talking about the NBA Finals. So I'm surprised. I'm not going to lie to you. I was talking to my buddy yesterday, and he had asked me about the NBA Finals and what I thought ultimately would become of the series. And I think I had already expressed this to you guys last week, that I thought that this would be no more than a 4. I thought 5, realistically 6, but 5 was my magic number. I didn't expect them to get swept. I don't think the Heat are a team that you're just going to sweep. And they've shown us that time and time again throughout these playoffs. And I disregarded, though, their ability to win on the road. And I had made the statement, I believe I did this on the podcast, as a matter of fact. I said, I don't expect them to do what they had done in the previous 3 series, which is what helped them land in the NBA Finals, which is win a road playoff game, specifically within the first 2 games. They had won game 1 in every single series. Keep in mind, the Heat are an 8 seed. So they had to be on the road to start every single series. There was never a series that they were going to be at home to start the series off. So they went into game 1 and they stole it from the Milwaukee Bucks in that 1-8 matchup. They went into the Garden, stole game 1 from the New York Knicks in the second series. And then they went into the Eastern Conference Finals and stole game 1 away from the Boston Celtics. So they had made it a habit of stealing a game on the road right away and wrestling away home court advantage immediately and putting the home team on the defense as soon as the series got kicked off. I said they weren't going to do that to the Nuggets. They didn't. And I didn't expect them to win a game on the road in these first 2. And that if they were going to make this a series, they were going to have to do it at home. Well, I was wrong. And game 2 was going exactly the way that I thought it would, that they were going to hang in there. It wasn't going to be the blowout that it was in game 1. They were going to hang in there, but they were going to fall short. And you get to the fourth quarter and the Nuggets are up like 8 and, they pick the number. And I always laugh in the NBA because a team will pick a number, any number, and they'll get stuck. And the number of choice for the Denver Nuggets was 85. They picked 85 and they got stuck. They were up, I think it was 84-76 going into the fourth quarter. They got to 85 and they got stuck. And the Heat went on this ridiculous run. It felt like a 20-1 run or something like that. Because at one point, I think the lead ballooned to 12 for the Heat. So you're down 8. You go up 12. That's a 20-point swing. There was 1 point scored by the Nuggets. So it's probably like a 21-1 run they went on. something to that effect. And they took a lead at some point. And I don't know if the run actually spanned over 21-1 in that same time frame, but they outscored them. At one point, they had outscored them in the fourth quarter like 20. It was like 30-9. You know what I'm saying? Like they called a timeout and they were up like, as a matter of fact, it was a quick bucket that the Nuggets got. Murray drove to the basket, dished it to Joker, who laid it in, and Spoelstra got a timeout immediately. And that cut it to like, I want to say like 10, maybe 9, 10, 8, something like that. But they at that point, they were outscoring them by like 20 points in the fourth quarter. It was crazy. But Nuggets made a furious comeback and had the ball with a chance to tie it with a 3. And Murray just couldn't connect. But they hung tough. But I said this in the series with the Celtics. I wasn't going to say it in this series because I didn't believe it. But I believe it again. And I'm going to stop doubting the Heat. I'm going to stop doubting Jimmy Butler and company. I'm going to stop doing that. Just stop making a habit of doing that because these boys just don't know how to say quit. You know, they don't know when to say when. And they don't realize that they're overmatched. Again, I can't stress to you enough what they're doing with the roster that they're doing it with. Show me how many coaches are taking Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, Kevin Love, 87-year-old Kevin Love, who started in game 2, and you got to make in-game adjustments in series. Duncan Robinson, who could barely get off the bench for most of the year for the Heat. And Caleb Martin was dealing with an injury. And so show me who's dragging this group to the NBA Finals. Show me the other coach in the league that's doing that. But I got to stop disrespecting them because they know how to play the game together. It's unselfish. It's fundamentally sound. They're well coached. And they wanted game 2 more. Bam Adebayo was outstanding. They wanted game 2 more. Duncan Robinson came off the bench and gave them like 8 points like that. You know what I'm saying? It was like a little span where he had like 10 points in like 2 minutes, right? Max Strus hit 4 threes in the first quarter. Like these boys were not playing. Gabe Vincent had another spectacular game. I got to stop disrespecting Gabe Vincent, by the way. I got to stop talking about him like he ain't built for this now. He's shown me enough to where I got to stop using him as the example of why this Heat team isn't supposed to be here. I got to stop throwing his name in there. I don't mind throwing Max Strus's name in there or Duncan Robinson, you know, or some of these other dudes. I got to stop putting Gabe Vincent's name in it because he's playing ball on the biggest stage. Okay. I got to stop disrespecting this man. But that was a big win on the road. It's a series now. I didn't think this was going to be a series. It's a series now. Really impressed with what they've done from a strategy perspective. They've shown the ability to make adjustments, to adjust to the adjustment, and the Nuggets are now in for a fight. They didn't have to be. They are now. They're going to have to go. And I expect them to go back on the road at some point. I don't know if it's going to be game 3. I don't know. But I love their head coach, Michael Malone. Mama named him Michael. I'm going to call him Michael. I'm not going to make the mistake of I forgot which sideline reporter it was or whoever called him Mike. And he was like, nah, my mom named me Michael. Mama named him Michael. I'm going to call him Michael. But Michael Malone, I love him as a coach because he's a great motivator. And he never pulls any punches with his team. And after the game last night, he was like, the effort wasn't good enough. They wanted it more than we did. That effort that we put on the floor tonight, that's not going to beat anybody, especially not this Miami Heat team. So if we want to win the NBA championship, we want the Larry O'Brien trophy, we're going to have to come with better effort than that because that wasn't good enough. He's challenged his players. I expect them to respond, but it's not going to be easy because South Beach is going to be lit in game 3. That's the one you want to go and steal, though. If you're like you want immediately to respond to this punch that just has been thrown. You know, you were a little staggered and dazed, It's tied at 1. You're heading to their place now. You need to immediately respond. The longer you let that punch that they hit you with in game 2 linger, the more you lessen your opportunity. Is that even a way to put that? The more you lessen, the less likely it is you're going to win the series. You decrease your chances of winning this series the longer you give the Heat confidence. Take it back away in game 3. It was funny because when I was talking to my buddy, we both predicted gentlemen sweeps, and it can still happen. The Nuggets can win the next 3 games. I don't anticipate that happening now. Now it's a 6-game series. Still see the Nuggets winning, but now it's 6 because you had to win both games at home, and then I expected the Nuggets to steal one in Miami and then come back and finish it at home in 5. That's not happening now because the Heat are winning one of these games at home. Minimum, they're winning one of these games. I can't see the Nuggets going there and taking both of these games. So now it could get really interesting because if the Heat win both of these games, it's 3-1, and now the Nuggets are, backed into a corner. So we'll see what happens. My guess is that the Nuggets come out, play inspired basketball. Now, here's the thing, and this is what I had told my buddy when he asked me how long did I think this series is going to go, and we agreed on a gentleman's sweep. And I told him how they win a game, the Heat win a game, is that Joker's going to have to go off. You got to let it happen, right? He's going to have to score 40. He's going to get his rebounds. So it's going to be 18 to 20 rebounds in there. There's nothing you can do about that. But I said the number that's the most important for you if you're trying to beat the Nuggets is he can't have 14, 15, 16 assists. That's what's going to kill you. So I said it's going to be one of these, and I expected this to happen in Miami, not in Denver. I said it's going to have to be one of those games where Joker feels the need to do it himself because others aren't making shots. So now he's going to shoot the ball 24 times, 30 times, right? But they're not knocking down shots, and Jamal Murray has to struggle as well. Like this has to be one of those Jamal Murray, 7 for 21 games for 17 points. You need one of those. 2 for 8 from 3. You need one of those, 2 from him. And then Caldwell Pope has to go 1 for 5. Michael Porter Jr. 1 for 7. And, Bruce Brown off the bench has to go 2 for, 4. But you want to keep Jeff Green can't come in and have like one of those vintage Jeff Green games and hits 4 threes. You need them all to struggle. That's what happened last night. It happened exactly the way that I thought it had to happen. Everybody around him struggled, including Jamal Murray. Nobody stepped up other than Joker. All right. He didn't have a triple-double because he didn't have the assists. And he scored 40-something points, and they lost. If they're going to beat Miami, you're going to have to live with Joker taking, because he's not shooting threes, right? That's not his forte. He can, but that's not his game. All right. They're only going to beat you if they're knocking down shots. And when I say shots, Caldwell Pope, right? KCP and Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray and Bruce Brown. Like these guys have to be knocking down threes. Aaron Gordon, like these guys, when they start contributing as 3-point shooters, you're dead. Because now Joker's got 14 assists, and of those 14 assists, 7 of them are made threes. Now you're in trouble because he's still going to get his 20 whatever, his 30 whatever. He's still getting that. So you might as well tack on an extra 10 to whatever he was going to get, take away 4 or 5 assists, and make him beat you himself. He can, but it's a lot harder because he's doing it the 2-point way. That's what the Heat did in game. And again, sometimes it's just a matter of make or miss. NBA is a make or miss league. Sometimes it's the same look they got in game 1. They just made it in game 1. They didn't make it in game 2. But sometimes it's really good defense. And the Heat go back and forth between that zone and playing man, and they switch things up. So I'm just going to say I was wrong about how this series started. I'm sticking to my prediction of the Nuggets winning, but now I'm extending the series out in an additional game to 6. And that's tough because now if you're ending it in 6, that's not on your home floor. That's in Miami if you're the Nuggets. So essentially, I'm thinking this thing is going to go back to Denver, tied up at 2, pivotal game 5. Denver gets it at home, and we've seen this Heat team, and this is why the rest of the series leading up to that will tell me how I will feel about that game 5. So right now, I don't feel any different. There were opportunities, shots that were there to be made that they missed, and they'll make them the next time. I expect the bench guys to play worse on the road, but they didn't play well last night. So we'll see what happens. Bottom line is, you're asking the Nuggets to win twice in Miami if they're going to end this series in 6. And when I say twice, meaning they're going to split this time around and then go back and get another one. That's tough, but they can do it. We'll see what happens. Series is knotted up at 1, heading back to Miami. Big game 3. If you're Nuggets, you really want to kind of stem the tide and not give them any more. See, this has been the problem with the Knicks or with the Heat. They've stolen a game and then they went home and taken care of business. Put teams in a tough spot. They did it to Milwaukee. They did it to New York. They did it to the Boston Celtics. Stole both games from Boston, went home, won game 3, and then they were up 3-0. And then they kind of relaxed a bit, I felt like, and allowed Boston back into that series and had to go and win a pivotal game 7 on the road. But they've shown the ability to protect their home floor, or at least take momentum gained from the first 2 games by stealing one and bringing that momentum home and taking care of business. Can they do that again in game 3? We'll see. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the gem dropping session today. Shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So I got to thinking. So over the weekend, I saw a couple of things NFL related. And I said I wanted to chop it up with y'all, kind of discuss this with y'all, see what y'all think, pick y'all brains a little bit. So I got 3 topics for you. I got one on Russell Wilson. He's the what for today. So we got a what, when, where episode of the Louie T Network podcast today. What, when, where. The what is Russell Wilson. The when is Dalvin Cook. The where is DeAndre Hopkins. So we'll start with the what. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you have seen this. I want your responses to it. So word out on the street. All of these are rumors, by the way. None of this stuff has been substantiated. This is just what everybody's saying right now. This is what's going around league circles. So the what is that reportedly Russell Wilson turned down trades from both Washington and Philadelphia last offseason before agreeing. Remember, he had a no trade clause, which I told Washington fans, he's not coming to Washington. He's not coming, which is why when we traded for Carson Wentz, I tried to explain to everyone, Washington fans, non-Washington fans, tried to explain to everyone alike that in order to, and which is why we settled on Carson Wentz, because he couldn't refuse us. He didn't have a no trade clause. So if the Colts would have outright released him, he could have picked his team. Who's to say he would have picked Washington, right? There may have been other opportunities out there for him, and he could have said, no, I'm good on Washington. I think I'll go here or I'll go there. So in order to take that ability away from him to choose, they traded for him. But Jimmy Garoppolo didn't want to come to Washington, which I felt disrespected there. I was in my bag. I was in my feelings on Jimmy deciding that he didn't want to come play for us, because I'm like, yo, you Jimmy Garoppolo. You trash for real. Like, let's keep it a buck. So for you to be shitting on us like, nah, I don't want to go. Like, you don't get to tell us no. You don't. That's not how this works, right? So I felt some type of way about that. But Russ, he deserves the right to be able to say, nah, I'm not doing that. Matthew Stafford the year before didn't have a no trade clause. So when Washington came knocking, right, he could have become a Washington Commander, but the Lions wanted to do right by him. So they traded him to one of the spots where he was willing to go, and that was the Rams. And it made sense because Brad Holmes had come from Detroit, had come from LA. They had a working relationship. he had a great relationship with the GM in LA, Dimitrov. And so they were able to, kind of get that deal done really easily, right? But reportedly, Russell Wilson turned down an opportunity to go to Philadelphia and Washington and decided to go to Denver. And I'm not mad at him for that. I thought Denver was ready-made to win. And with Russ's talent, I thought where they messed up was the coach, right? And it's easy to blame everything and dump everything on Nathaniel Hackett last year. He was awful, but so was Russell Wilson. He was trash last year, was Russell Wilson. Now, granted, that's not who he has been throughout his career. And we're going to see now that you've got a bona fide offensive mind there in Sean Payton. And you could debate whether he's a future Hall of Fame head coach or not. I think he needs to win one more Super Bowl to kind of cement that. But you could argue Sean Payton is in that discussion. And so for me, we're going to find out what Russ really has left this year, because I'm not sure Sean Payton truly believes in Russell Wilson. I've heard a lot of rumors. We don't know if any of them are true. But actions speak louder than words, and the quarterbacks that they've assembled on that roster says to me, I need an insurance policy in case Russell Wilson's on that same shit from last year. I'm not doing that with him because I didn't select him. I didn't bring him here. So I'm not doing that with him. He starts thinking it up. I got a dude on the bench that I'm really comfortable with, and I'm moving forward, and he's done, right? Sometimes the biggest or best moves, rather, are the ones that you don't make. Just think about, had Russell Wilson chosen Washington last year or Philadelphia last year and played the way that he played last year, could you imagine how that would have been received by those? See, Denver is, I don't want to say Denver is sterile, but it's Denver, okay? Like, the media isn't tearing him to shreds. Like, if he would have brought that shit to Philadelphia, he wouldn't have made it out of last season. They would have crucified him for the money he was paid and the amount of draft capital that was given up. He would not have made it out of last season in Philadelphia. They would have ate him alive and swallowed the bones as well. If he would have done that in Washington, we would have been killing him. It's Denver. So it's like, he'll get him next time. They were booing him and stuff like that too. I don't want to make it seem like Denver Broncos fans are just some really nice people that don't ever get upset. They were booing his ass. They were booing the draws off of them early in the season. Remember, they were calling out the play clock because they kept getting false starts and having to call timeouts and stuff, or delay games rather, and having to call timeouts early in the season. They were calling out the damn play clock like it was an NBA game. So those fans get it. I thought the media was really soft on them, however, but that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is, you could attack this from multiple angles. First angle is, if that is true, and I don't see why it wouldn't be true. If that's true, what does that say about how Philadelphia felt about Jalen Hurts? Right? Now, obviously, they feel different about him now, right? They paid him the money. They know he's their guy, but they didn't know that last year. They weren't treating him as such last year. They were ready to move on from him. If they were willing to trade for Russell Wilson, that means they didn't believe in Jalen Hurts. I mean, it is what it is. It doesn't matter now, but that's how they felt last year. So that's interesting. That's an interesting dynamic there, but that's nor here nor there. Again, that's water under the bridge now. He's proven himself to them. They've given him the contract. It is what it is. But last year, they didn't believe in Jalen Hurts. Can't say that I blame them, but that to me is interesting. Then the other piece of that is, Russell Wilson, turning down opportunities elsewhere, going to Denver, and then stinking it up. And it's not like the Broncos can get out of this thing. They got to make this work this year, or this could go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history for the Denver Broncos. Like, there have been some bad trades. The Herschel Walker, I don't know if you can top the two draft trades, the Herschel Walker trade with the Cowboys and the Vikings, and then the Washington Redskins fleecing the New Orleans Saints with the Ricky Williams trade. I don't know if you can do much better than those two trades, but this is pretty damn close. And this is worse for Denver. At least those teams didn't give up any money, right? Like they signed rookie players. Or in the case of the Vikings, they traded for Herschel Walker, whatever the situation was. Both of those, involved a ton of draft capital. This trade involved not only draft capital, but it also involved them giving up players, good ones too. Like Shelby Harris and Noah Fant aren't just like mince meat. These are good football players that they gave up. Drew Lock was a throw-in, but those other two were really good. And you had to turn around, tear up his remaining contract, and give him a brand new deal. And this is a substantial amount of bread that they gave up. If this doesn't work, somebody has to be fired behind this. And that one somebody is the GM. And I'm pretty sure he's on the chopping block because John Elway is already like, yo, I don't want nothing to do with this. He's already gone, right? There's new ownership in there, right? And they came in and they kind of just let things be. But if this Russell Wilson thing doesn't work, they got to fire the GM. Got to. That's not optional. And this will be one of the trades we'll talk when we make lists, when we're talking about, the top 10 worst trades in NFL history. This might be at the very top. And I just, it's not often I thank my lucky stars that something didn't happen. But as a Washington fan, we've come close to doing dumb shit before. Remember the 3 first-round picks for Chad Johnson that we offered up the Bengals? Was it 2? I think it was 2 first-rounders for him. And they said no. What dumbasses. I'd have done that in a heartbeat. Like that, they did that off of the strength of principle, though. Like, because Chad Johnson said he didn't want to play for them, and they weren't going to allow someone to strong arm them. They were trying to make a point. Was Paul Brown, or Mike Brown, rather. Good luck with that. I would have traded his ass for 2 first-rounders in a heartbeat. Anyway, that we got lucky that shit didn't happen. I don't even know what we did with those first rounds. It doesn't even matter, right? Don't trade 2 first-round picks for a wide receiver. That's dumb to me. But unless he's Tyreek Hill, I don't even know if they fetched 2 first-rounders for him, did the Chiefs. Pretty sure it was just 1. And then, a bunch of other picks. But I'm not giving up 2 first-rounders for a wide receiver. Hell no. I barely want to do that for a damn quarterback, let alone a receiver. Anyway, this one is though. This one might take the cake, man. Yikes. So I'm glad Washington didn't do it, and I would have loved nothing more than to see Philadelphia, bet on themselves with him and have him, turn up the way that he did, But again, I still think that Russell Wilson has something left in the tank. So we will see if that is in fact the case or not. Let's talk about the win. So that was the what over the weekend. Oh, okay. That rumor confirmed what I already suspected, which is that we tried to trade for him. We being Washington. We know what Ron Rivera was doing last year. He was desperate. That brother was out there courting every team with a quarterback on the market. Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, every quarterback that was available. Aaron Rodgers, they went after him too last year. Remember, the whole Andrew Luck thing came up. Because why? Because Ron wasn't leaving any stone unturned. They called the Chiefs about Mahomes last year. That's how desperate we were. They were making everyone tell them no or just hanging up on them. So I'm not shocked that they offered the Seahawks a deal and Russ was like, nah, I'm not going there. I'm good. I thought that happened. Now I know it happened, or at least it's rumored to have happened. I believe it did. I was shocked about Philly though. but I shouldn't be, because Howie Roseman is usually exploring all options as well. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to the win. So the win is Dalvin Cook. So this has been a weird situation because it's almost like they soured on Dalvin Cook out of nowhere. I'm not a Vikings fan. I don't follow the day-to-day minutia there. I know of his career. I know how things have gone. He's often injured. And so I think the combination of him being injured, the production being good, not great, and them feeling like we're not going, keep putting ourselves in this position over a running back that we got to pay $11 million to this year that we just don't think is worth that kind of money. How often, this is the thing about running backs, and this is why I hate it for them. I really, truly do. Parents out there, whatever you do not let your sons grow up to be running backs. Please. All right. There is no good money in becoming a running back. Just a lot of pain and suffering. And a lot of people telling you what you should get, but you not actually getting it. Now, how many times have we seen teams do the right thing? And I'm always on board with doing the right thing, but they do it for the wrong reasons. All right. Doing the right thing and doing it for the right reasons when it comes to running backs is something that I don't think gets done enough. If you're doing the right thing is giving a running back who has played his ass off for you, produced at a very high level, paying him is the right thing. But you should only do that. Remember, keep in mind, when you give a player, any player, doesn't matter what position they play, irregardless of position, when you give a player a brand new contract, you're not giving him that contract solely off of what he's done for you. You're also taking into account what you expect him to do for you in the future over the life of that contract that you're offering him. Okay. So for most positions, when you get a guy that comes into the league, whether he's a first round pick and you have 5 years of service on that first contract, or 4 before you have to make a decision, or they're drafted in any round other than the first, or they're undrafted where you only have 3 years really to negotiate with that player. If you want to run the risk of them going to that 4th year and then having to go through the franchise tag, song and dance, knock yourself out, but that's a dangerous game to play. However, no matter what position we're talking about, most positions, when you come into the league and you kill it your first 2 or 3 years, or you kill it, years 2, 3, and now you're looking for a re-up after year 3, whatever the case may be, you go into those contract negotiations expecting a left tackle to continue to play at a high level, expecting a receiver to continue to put up monster numbers, expecting a tight end to kill it for you the next 5 years, expecting, a cornerback to continue playing at a very high level, edge rushers, so forth and so forth, linebacker, safety. When you give out those deals at those other positions, you expect that guy to continue to project out into the next 3, 4, 5 years of playing high quality ball. The reason you re-signed him in the first place is because not only did he kill it for you on that rookie deal, but you can also see that he's only getting better. The apex is not even here yet. He's not anywhere near the decline of his career. So if I sign this guy to a 3-year, $72 million deal, or a 4-year, $85 million deal, I expect to get to the 3rd year, 4th year of that deal and say, hey, let's do it again, man. Let's do it again. Or you're like, yo, it's been fun. I got to run. You can do whatever you want to do, but we're going to go ahead and end the marriage now. But it's been a hell of a run, 7, 6, 7, 8 years. It's been a hell of a run. You can do this somewhere else, though. With running backs, that's the only position where a dude comes in, kills it for you in the first 3, 4 years of his career, and you looking at him and you saying, damn. And remember, if you're a running back, the likelihood is you weren't a first round pick. Now, that's not always the case, but first round running backs are exceptions to the rule. Like Bijan Robinson and my guy from Alabama, Jahmyr Gibbs, are exceptions to the rule, right? We don't get first-round running backs all that often. So the likelihood is you ain't been paid. You haven't made any real bread in the league as a running back, despite you going out here and busting your ass for the first 3 years of your career. You ain't made. You want to know why Austin Eckler's over here like really sulking over this situation with the Chargers? Because he ain't made no real bread yet. And he's like, if I play another year, that's one less year left of good football for somebody else to pay me. Like, this is really hurting my value. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. And so when you look at that position, it's tough because on one hand, you want to do the right thing, and that's pay that player that's bust his ass, produced at a high level for you, and helped you win ball games. You want to pay that running back. But on the other end, you got to do it for the right reasons. And the right reasons are, A, he's done it for us, but B, that other component needs to be there. I expect him to do it for another 3 years. How many times have we seen dudes fall off a cliff once they've gotten that bread? Even though they've produced at a high level for you on that rookie deal, you give them that contract extension, you pay them all this money, and they're never the same back. We can go down the list of these dudes. The only dude that I've seen get paid, and he didn't even kill it, was Derrick Henry, right? And Derrick Henry, I think, is coming up on the last year of his deal. Is somebody really going to break Derrick Henry off after this deal, knowing what his body has gone through already? I doubt it. He going to get some money from somebody. It's not going to be a lucrative deal, though, right? Because you can't expect him to have a ton of tread left on the tires, right? So Dalvin Cook is another one of these guys, like, like I think the first back to really mess it up for the rest of the backs was your boy for the Rams, Todd Gurley. Like, that was a rough deal for the Rams, right? Then Ezekiel Elliott is another dude where you just look and say, yeah, that didn't necessarily work out for Dallas. Between injuries, lack of production, he wasn't the same guy. Even if he still was producing at a solid, he wasn't the feed Zeke 1,400-yard rusher anymore, right? And then Dalvin Cook is another one of these dudes. They looking at Dalvin like, yo, we owe him $11 million this year. What? We got to get out of this thing. He's not worth $11 million. It took them too long to figure this shit out. And I read an article with, I think it was on Bleacher Report, where they said that the running back market for veterans has cooled off considerably, which is why Zeke hasn't gotten a deal. And a guy like Dalvin Cook, because again, running backs come a dime a dozen, right? You can find you a young back end. Look at what the Chiefs did last year. What they did last year. You don't know why they didn't pick up the 5th-year option on Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Because they got a steal in the 7th round. Like, you don't have to do anything. Like, that's why a lot of people don't believe in drafting first-round running backs, because you can find a back anyway. I mean, look at the 2 second-rounders last year. Before he got hurt, Breece Hall looked like the rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year before he got injured. I think he would have been. It wouldn't have gone to his teammate. He would have gotten it had he stayed healthy. And then look at what Kenneth Walker did for the Seahawks last year as a second-round pick. Like, Derrick Henry's a second-round pick. Like, you don't have to spend a first-round pick on a running back unless that guy looks like Adrian Peterson, Then you have to consider it. Or Bijan Robinson, then you have to consider it. But I don't really think that anybody's going to give the Vikings what they think they're going to get from him. Like, they're waiting on a trade that I don't think is going to happen. Like, who's going to trade anything to you for Dalvin Cook and eat $11 million? Like, who's looking to do that? Even if the Vikings said, look, we don't even want you to eat the whole $11 million. We'll take 5.5 off your plate. We'll take half off your. Who's looking to trade assets to you in exchange for Dalvin Cook and eat $5.5 million of salary? Who's looking to do that? When I can give one of these young fellas some run, pay him next to nothing on a rookie deal as a third, a fourth, fifth round pick and let this dude eat. It's just tough to convince a team, hey, Dalvin Cook is what the game's been missing for you. You need Dalvin Cook. You need this veteran running back. Like, if Joe Mixon got released, who's over here fighting you over Joe Mixon, right? Joe's not even old, but that's how the position ages. It doesn't age well. So veteran runners like Austin Eckler are finding it tough to find somebody to come rescue him and give him the money that he probably deserves. But teams are looking at Austin Eckler and saying, bro, you 27, you about to turn 28. You've been the Chargers pretty much their entire offense for the last 2-3 years. While you ain't getting a bunch of carries, you had a lot of touches, right? Like, how long can you do? I actually think Austin Eckler's one of those exceptions to the rule, though, because he takes care of his body. He's a smaller, more diminutive back. Like, he's not taking a bunch of shots. I think Austin Eckler could be very, like, you know how Darren Sproles and Warwick Dunn and these smaller backs, very productive. They played well into their 30s. They were very productive. And Sproles played until he was damn near 40 and probably could have kept playing and decided to retire. I think somebody would have given him a 1-year contract if he wanted to play again. Eckler strikes me as one of those dudes, one of those Danny Woodhead dudes where it's so small, low to the ground, low center of gravity, hard to get a good shot on him. And again, Eckler takes care of his body like nobody in this league. I really think he's one of those exceptions to the rule. But still, when we talking about running back years, 28 is you're getting up there, man. Because once you hit 30, you at the point of no return for most teams in the mindset. So who's trading? How old is Dalvin Cook? And I don't even think Dalvin Cook's that old. I'm gonna put him at 27, about to turn 28 though. Let's check on Dalvin Cook and see how old he is. Because I think he's got to be 27, about to turn 28. He's 27 years old. I want to see when his birthday is, because he could be about to turn August. So he's about to turn 28. Who's trading you anything of note? And at this point, I don't even know what the Vikings are looking for. They could be like, yo, just give me a day 3 pick. I ain't even tripping. Because I think it's less about value and more about moving this money. Like, if you cut him, you still on the hook for that 11 mil. They trying to get somebody to take this 11 mil off their plate. Who's doing that? Like, who raised you? As a wise man once told me or asked me, who raised you? Who you think coming to save you? And everybody knows you desperate over here. You can never show your hand, especially in the NFL. Everybody knows you over here desperate. This ain't like quarterback where you just waiting for a major injury to happen and you got a guy like once upon a time the Eagles had Sam Bradford, the Vikings had Teddy Bridgewater go down, and they didn't want their season to be over like that, so they gave a first-round pick to the Eagles for Sam Bradford. This ain't that. It's a running back. If a running back goes down in camp, they just going to get a next dude a shot. They're not going out here and trading a second or third round pick for Dalvin Cook. They just going to roll with the next dude. So it's tough. I think the Vikings they backed themselves into a corner here. They're looking for a deal that I don't think is going to happen. I think they're going to ultimately release. Like, after all of this scuttlebutt over the offseason, can you have him back? Can that be a salvageable relationship? Like, you've made it known we don't want you. If I'm Dalvin Cook, do I really want to be there now? You've essentially told me every way that you possibly can that my presence is no longer warranted on your roster. Can we have a marriage that is okay? Like, I would liken that to two people staying together because they want to be there for the sake of the kid or kids. Like, once they all get to high school and they're okay, like, now we gonna split up. But the marriage has been over since they were in elementary school, but we just been sticking together for the sake of the kid. That's trash to me, by the way. That's trash. But some people do that and they think that's the right thing to do. And look, divorce is a massive problem in our society, and it impacts kids. So I understand the logic behind doing that. But, you know, you're asking two people to fake happiness. That's tough because I'm a happiness guy. So Dalvin Cook can't possibly be happy in Minnesota. If nothing transpires and the Vikings are like, well, we got to eat the 11, we might as well hold on to him. If I'm Dalvin Cook, I'm like, man, F y'all. Now put Madison in the game. Don't put me in the game. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter because either way, he's getting the 11 mil if he's on the roster. So if I'm getting my 11 mil, I'm gonna just play ball, right? It's not like they shafting him or something. So it's just weird because they made it abundantly clear that we don't want you anymore. And we're dying for somebody to take you off of our hands. It's the same way that the Arizona Cardinals and DeAndre Hopkins marriage kind of ended. It was the opposite, though. The Cardinals were like, yo, we cool with you staying in Arizona, bro. And this man was doing a world tour talking about every other quarterback and every other situation that he would rather be in than Arizona. And it was like, bro, stop talking about other teams. You're on our team. Stop doing that. And he was like, yo, I'd like to go somewhere with a quarterback like Hurts or Rodgers. And they're like, okay, enough of this shit. Hey, hit his agent up, tell him we getting rid of his ass. We done. This shit is over. We can't do this anymore. Right? Like Dalvin, you haven't heard anything out of Dalvin Cook. You know, he's like, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, but he's just playing it cool. Because in his mind, he's like, I'm gonna get my bread, you know, unless they release him. So, but they don't want to eat $11 million. And I don't know if there's an even more significant cap hit behind that. But who's taking him off your hands? Who's looking to eat some of that cap for you? And everybody in the league knows you're looking to move him. You're desperate. They're not going to help you. Good luck with that, Minnesota. You're going to need it. Then finally, where? So the where for me is DeAndre Hopkins. Where's he going to end up? So when he first got released, I was shocked. I told you guys as much. But, you know, we went to all of the places that we had heard trade rumors for, and we went straight to contenders because he's never won anything in the league. And he really hasn't played with great quarterbacks. He had a stretch in his career where he played with Deshaun Watson for roughly about 3 years. And that was probably the best in terms of success he's had from a winning standpoint. I don't know if his numbers reflect that or not, but he had some, you know, good years without Watson, probably had his best years with Watson, if I had to guess. Maybe, you know, that first year with Kyler Murray in Arizona, he put up some monster numbers that year as well. But you would think he would want to win at this point. And being that he's still getting his bread, which is what I think would happen with Dalvin Cook if he were to be released, which is why Cook ain't saying nothing because he's like, oh, I'm straight regardless. You know, DeAndre Hopkins got released. The Cardinals are still on the hook for his salary this year. So he could take less money, theoretically, to play somewhere where he would have a chance to win. And all he has to do is sign a 1-year deal. He doesn't have to lock himself into a 3-year contract anywhere. Just, hey, I think you guys got a good squad this year. I'd love to come on board. I'll take the vet minimum because I'm already getting paid top dollar by the Arizona Cardinals this year. It's whatever. I don't know if he's willing to do that. Like he's giving me I'm trying to still maximize, you know, whatever I can type vibes. Like Odell Beckham Jr. Shame on you if you step to the old dirty Beckham. It was okay for him to do that. He already won a chip. So it was okay for him to be like, nah. I'm not looking for the best fit or the best quarterbacks. I'm looking for a chance to get paid. Who's going to pay me? Ravens anteed up, and that's not a bad situation with Lamar Jackson either. So it was like best of both worlds. But even if it wasn't going to be Lamar, because remember that whole situation was still in limbo when he signed. He was like, yo, they paying me way above market value, way more so than what anybody else was looking to pay me. And it's over 3 years. I'm gonna just take this deal. I can't turn this down. Whereas DeAndre Hopkins hasn't won a Super Bowl. Hasn't even played in I can't say that. He did play in the AFC Championship game that year. No, he didn't. I'm tripping. He's never played in a championship game. He made to the divisional round, and they got smoked by the Chiefs. They got out to a nice little, like 24-7 lead or some craziness like that. Might have been 24-0, and then got their ass cooked in the second quarter on, pretty much the rest of the game, ended up losing like 48-20 something, right? That's as far as he's been. He's never made it to a championship game, so you would think he would want to win. So, all the, the usual suspects were rounded up when he was first released. Buffalo, Kansas City, the Jets were thrown in there just because of all the things they've done this offseason. Eagles, because Howie Roseman is always looking to upgrade his roster. And, so those were some of the names that we threw abounded about rather. And then, we started to hear Cleveland because of his relationship with Deshaun Watson. We started hearing some of these other lesser teams. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Then I even saw over the weekend, he was considering going back to Houston. I'm like, that's odd. They're not winning anything there of note. Now, they do have a quarterback in CJ Stroud now. And I like the pieces that they've assembled. Tank Dell is going to be a beast, you all. I'm just telling y'all, I love that kid. You already know that. I've told you that already. And they're getting back the receiver from Alabama that had cancer this year. I think they've got a chance to put a formidable group of receivers on the field. Anyway, and didn't they sign one of those tight ends? If it wasn't Gesicki, it was the one from Dallas. It's one of those two. So they added, some weapons. I was like, that wouldn't be a bad fit for him. You ain't winning shit. But the Texans was already like, nah, we good. But then that made me think, well, is he willing to go anywhere now? And he pretty much said over the weekend, hey, I'm open to any and every team. Like, I'm not, just looking for a Super Bowl situation, which tells me he wants somebody to pay him. Because you're not taking a vet minimum to go play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I just use them as an example. They don't need any receiver help, but I use them as an example because they got a really bad quarterback situation right now. I mean, Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask are battling it out for the right to start, to take over for Tom Brady. It's not the most ideal quarterback situation right now. Might be one of the worst in the league right now. So, are you taking the vet minimum to go play for the Bucs? Hell no. Hell no. So in my mind, if you're looking to go somewhere like Tampa, and again, they don't need a receiver. I'm just throwing them out there because of their quarterback situation. If you're looking to play for a team and don't mind playing for a team like Tampa, it means you're trying to go to the highest bidder. So what's important to DeAndre Hopkins? Is it more about, hey, I'm trying to get my hands on as much bread as, and there's no wrong answer. Because nobody can tell you what should be important to you. If you could say to yourself, I've left a legacy already. At one point, I was the best receiver in the NFL. And if he plays for another 4 years, puts up good numbers, he'll probably be in the Hall of Fame. So legacy is established because we don't judge receivers the same way we do quarterbacks. So you don't have to win a damn thing. Calvin Johnson I don't know if he ever won a playoff game. Does that diminish what he was as a receiver? Hell no. Hell no. First ballot Hall of Fame receiver, one of the best we've ever seen do it. Well, nobody's questioning that. And he ain't win shit. So I'm not mad at him. I ain't glad at him, but I ain't mad. Where is he going to end up is the question. I don't know now. I thought it would be a Buffalo or a Kansas City or one of these contending teams. I don't know now. I really don't. I've heard Cleveland. I've heard Houston. And Jacksonville even had to come out over the weekend and say, hey, we good. I think they could use a receiver like him. But I keep forgetting, too, Calvin Ridley is back from his suspension. If he's back to the Calvin Ridley of 3 years ago, he's a number one type receiver. So we'll see, but it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. A lot of options are, available right now. But anyway, I digress. So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say. Let's go ahead and transition to social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. Y'all know what it is. If you got a comment out there, you want it read, you know how to do it. If you don't, it's really simple. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. If it is pertinent and time permits, we'll get to it. if you want to ensure that your comment is read, super chats are the way to get that done. And so super chats go straight to the front of the line. Hence, we have a super chat right now. So I'll read that one first, and then we'll get to the comment section and see if we can't knock down a few. I can't get to as many as I would probably like, but I'll get to as many of the hashtags as I can. Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Reedy Davis writes, Lou, I'm asking you. Okay, let me make sense of this comment before I just start reading it. So this comment says, asking you and Super Friends about what best wide receivers in the conference, and said us. So I'm assuming when we had that conversation, you said that we had the best receivers in the conference. I don't know. I would say, because the best trios, I just put out a video behind that, and all of the trios that I put in front of Washington were all in the AFC with the exception of Seattle. So I think the Seahawks would probably be the team in the conference that I would say has the best group of receivers. I'd have to look at the Bucks. Rest of after you get past Justin Gage, after you get past Russell Gage, I'd look at the rest. But I know Scotty Miller isn't there anymore. I don't know if there's any other guys that truly move the needle there. I think it's just Seattle, honestly, because even Dwayne Eskridge, who hasn't done a damn thing, I think is still fully capable. So and they may have one or two other dudes where you go, hey, he's not that damn bad either. So I'd probably say Seattle right now. I don't think there's another, group that I think you could put in front of Washington. And again, I don't want to make it seem like, because losing Cam Sims is a big blow to that room, because Cam Sims had a 600-yard receiving season. Like how many teams can say, hey, my fourth option has, like last year, I could say our fourth option had a 600-yard receiving season. Not many teams can say that. I can't even say that now as a fan of the Washington Commanders, because he's no longer in Washington. Okay. But last year I could lay claim to that. But also last year, Curtis Samuel was coming off of an injury-plagued season, so I couldn't even really, boost him up. Dotson was a rookie, hadn't done anything in the league yet, so couldn't say anything about him. But I knew what he was going to be. Just like I know what Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be, which is why I elevate Seattle. I think Washington probably has the second best receiving core in the NFC. I don't think there's any other teams that can lay claim to that, honestly. We've gone through the trios. Like if your trio doesn't stand up, your entire room can't stand up. So I think Washington's behind Seattle, personally. Anyway, I digress. Let's see if I got any more. Starface writes, Louie, thoughts on CJ Stroud top 5 QB list? I think CJ Stroud's going to be really good, and I think he's in a really good situation, really good environment. I'm anxious to see what DeMeco Ryans is as a head coach. Just because you're a really good defensive coordinator doesn't mean you're going to make a great head coach. But I don't know who their offensive coordinator is, so I have to look that up to kind of see if I like that, person, because it could be a person that's never called plays in the NFL before, so we won't really know. I just know CJ Stroud is talented. The Texans have been trying to fix that line for years. I think they've got a solid enough line that they should be able to protect him adequately enough. I think with John Mechie coming back and Tank Dell adding, I think it's the Dallas tight end. I really think it was Dalton Schultz that went to Houston on a 1-year deal. All those weapons. And then I think they had the kid from Michigan that they drafted last year. He's not half bad either. So I think when it's all said and done, they're going to have a nice little group there for him to get the football to. They're going to miss Brandon Cooks, but they'll survive. They'll be all right. So I think Stroud has a chance to be really solid in his rookie season. I really do. As far as top 5 is concerned, if you're asking me to make a list, I don't know what that list is right now. Mahomes is at the top. I can tell you that. And I can tell you all of the quarterbacks in the top 5 are in the AFC. I can tell you that as well. And Burrow, Herbert, Allen, Jackson. I want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Those are all the guys that come to mind right off the bat, and I probably left out one of the dudes that I probably shouldn't have, but I'm going to just go through all the divisions in my head real quick. It's nobody else it's no quarterbacks in this. And, Lawrence, he's not top 5 yet, though. I think he has a chance to be. But, I think the list is probably those 5 that I just named. And you could put it in Rodgers as well. You could put them in whatever order you want. But it's Mahomes. And he's 1. After 1, you can do whatever the hell you want to do, honestly. You want to put Burrow second, knock yourself out. I'm not going to argue with you. But, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen is probably 3rd on the list. Then I would probably go Herbert and Jackson. Rodgers, I could easily put Rodgers at 4 or 5, but it's somewhere in there. That's the list, pretty much. They're all in the AFC right now. Let's see. Red Wings 01 writes, don't know if you saw the Aaron Rodgers presser on him skipping OTAs. I got no problem with that, but the way he phrased it was tone deaf at best. I haven't heard it, haven't seen anything about it, but again, he knows the system. They literally did everything in their power to make Aaron Rodgers as comfortable as possible. Like they went, I made a joke earlier on the podcast like 2 months ago that they were whoring themselves for Rodgers. Like they did everything in their power to make Aaron Rodgers' assimilation to their roster as seamless and as painless as possible. They went out and got all of his friends from Green Bay, Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard. They went out and got his former quarterbacks coach, made him the offensive coordinator. All right, like they did all of this shit to make him comfortable. So he doesn't have to be there. He knows the offense. He knows the terminology. The only reason he would have to be there is to work on timing with the receiver. And Rodgers is like, bro, I'm 40. I ain't doing that shit. I see them in training camp. We'll get all the work we need when August hits, when July hits. I don't need to be here in March and April, May, into June. Nah, I'm good. I'll see y'all in a couple months. I ain't mad at him. I ain't glad at him. I ain't mad at him. I didn't hear it, though. I don't know what he said, so I can't really get into specifics with you. Red Wings continues. I hate to say it as an A-Rod fan, but I'm tired of his attitude. I get New York runs a similar offense to Green Bay, but he should try to get as many reps with his new team as possible. Again, this is who Aaron Rodgers has been. You've heard multiple former teammates come out and say he's not a great teammate. I don't know him personally. And if he's your guy, you rock with him, then I'm pretty sure he's the most loyal and awesome dude. But we already know Aaron Rodgers' personality is eccentric at best. So if you're not one of his guys, he don't really rock with you like that, right? I told you he threw his young teammates under the bus. He didn't do his part last year with the young fellas. He didn't show up at OTAs last year. He let Jordan Love get all the OTA reps. He didn't play in any preseason games last year. He could have made that transition for all of those young receivers who were effing up. He could have made that transition a lot more seamless for them. And he opted not to because he said, I'm Aaron Rodgers. Y'all figure that shit out. And when I come, y'all need to be ready. That's always been his stance. Or I shouldn't say that. That's been his stance of late. As he's gotten older, he's less inclined to do all of this extra shit. And he really just wants to play ball. So, I mean, it is what it is. I ain't tripping about it. Red Wing 01 writes, this is why he'll never be as great as Brady. Kind of funny how much he's become like Brett Favre as his career is gone, minus the cheerleader picks and the welfare slush fund. It has, doesn't it? And I'm pretty sure, if I had to guess, when Brett Favre was treating him like shit in Green Bay and wasn't helping him at all, and they had like a pseudo, solid relationship. They had the little gunslinger, handshake and shit that they would do, but I'm pretty sure Brett Favre was a dick to him, making sure he knew his place. You would back up. I'm the starter. I'm Brett Favre. You Aaron Rodgers. You on the bench. I'm the starter. He probably said to himself, if I'm ever in that situation, I ain't going to do that to the next dude. Or he could have said, if I'm ever in that situation, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Because it's one or two schools of thought. You can either say, nah, I'm going to be better when my turn comes, if my turn comes. Or you could say, I'm going to do them the exact way it was done to me because that's the rite of passage. Like, I remember the, Detroit Pistons, the bad boy Pistons. They walked off the court before the end of the game against the Bulls. You've seen this on The Last Dance. I've seen it on multiple documentaries. So it's well documented. It's part of the reason Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen couldn't stand Isaiah Thomas and didn't want him on the 92 Dream Team, the original Dream Team, which was bullshit because he should have been on that team. But the Pistons, and there's footage of this, said it was what was done to us. So we just felt like that was the rites of passage. The Celtics did it to us when we knocked the Celtics off the throne. They were the kings of the Eastern Conference with all those years of those battles with the LA Lakers. We finally were the team to knock them off the throne. And they left before the game was over. They walked off the court. There's an actual clip of Kevin McHale dapping up Isaiah Thomas, who's still on the floor, and it's got to be like 12 seconds left in the game. And all of these Larry, all these Robert, all them boys are walking off the court, right? It's over. They got us. It's a wrap. It's a passing of the torch. And when the Bulls swept those boys in Detroit, they walked right past their bench. The difference was Kevin McHale dapped them up, was like, hey, man, respect. Y'all finally got us. Go do some big things. Go win this shit, right? Them boys ducked past them, ain't say nothing, ain't acknowledge them. Mike and the fellas on the bench looking like, the hell y'all going? Y'all ain't gonna say shit? Y'all just gonna walk off? It's like that? All right. So you can either say, you know what? We ain't gonna do that because we know how that made us feel. We ain't gonna do that. Or you go, nah, that's how it was done to us, so we gonna do it to you. I'm more of a, I know how I felt when it happened to me, so I'm not gonna do that to you. I'm not gonna do you like that. I always find that to be really selfish when I find out someone knew better and didn't do better. Because when you know better, you do better. And Aaron Rodgers knows better. And it feels like he's, like you said, I always talk about this with people. When you grow up and your dad ain't shit, and you vow to never be like your dad because you knew how that made you feel, right? And so you vow to not be like him. And then you find yourself turning into him more and more. And that's a tough, bitter pill to swallow. So I just see Aaron Rodgers turning into Brett Favre more and more every day. Because Brett Favre was a dick too. Like a lot of people don't realize he was a dick. And, he didn't treat his teammates always the best. So I think Aaron Rodgers is turning into, and maybe he always felt like he would turn into him all along. So anyway, I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. I think that's the last comment. It is. So, no, it ain't. Here goes one from Red Wings. Bucks are really got nothing behind Gage aside from a couple of interesting rookies, Raheem Jarrett and Trey Palmer. I will say if Minnesota gets Pitt Addison over USC, Addy, they got something. They will, but it's still like Osborne is cool, right? You would assume similar to our situation because a lot of people comped Jordan Addison to our guy, Jahan Dotson. And I don't think it's a fair comp because I don't think Addison is as fast as Dotson. I don't think he's even as quick as Jahan Dotson. Like, I don't think he's a dude that's going to make you miss. I think he's an exceptional route runner, but I don't think he's a fast, particularly fast receiver. And I don't think he is necessarily that dynamic in space, but that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is, to your point, if they get Pitt Jordan Addison, because I wasn't impressed with him at USC, and he might have been dealing with something that we didn't know about, whatever the case may be. He was all right at SC. Thought he was better at Pitt, but if he comes in the league and gives them what they need, and they don't even need him to be like a super stud, like they just need him to be a good enough option to take some of the pressure off of Justin Jefferson. And if he can do that, because to me, Osborne is a third option. He's not a 2. So if he can come in and fill that 2 void well, yeah, I think the Vikings are in that conversation as well. Absolutely. Because Justin Jefferson's that good. So we'll see. We'll see what the Vikings ultimately do. Red Wing says Nico Collins is the Michigan dude in Houston. They also added Robert Woods. I forgot about Robert Woods. Yeah, I think they're going to have some really good weapons. I remember when they did get Robert Woods, I said, that's a good move for them. That's a nice little veteran out there for them. I think they still might have had Brandon Cooks at the time, but it doesn't matter. He's still a good addition for them. So, yeah, and Nico Collins is the guy I was thinking about. I couldn't think of his name. I knew they had some, big body Michigan receiver that I actually thought did some good things last year. So I think they're, compiling a nice little group out there for CJ Stroud. I really do. Kevin, the PRF says, now you got me curious. Top 5 NFC quarterbacks. I'd have to sit and think. Because again, we've already gone through the exercise of talking about how there's really not much out there. But just off the top of the dome, it's got to be that. It's got to be in no particular order, right? I'll just give you 5 dudes. You can put them in whatever order you want, but it's got to be Dak, Hurts, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, probably Derek Carr. I mean, again, I haven't gone through the entire conference, but I could do it real quick in my head. We've already gave you the 2 quarterbacks from the NFC East. You go down south, there's absolutely nothing there now. But in 2 years, I really think Bryce Young could be, at the top of that list. If not, he's pierced the top 5 because there's just not much by the way of young quarterbacks in the NFC right now. So, Bryce Young could be, but there's nothing. I mean, other than Derek Carr, there's nothing in the South, right? Right now, as it stands. You go to the NFC West, and Brock Purdy, do it again. Like, that's a small sample size. Do it again. I need to see it again before I can crown him. And he's coming off of an injury. Geno Smith is really good. That was 1 year though. Do it again. Like, I need to see it again before I can crown him. Right. Same thing I said about Jalen Hurts. The biggest difference is Hurts got his team to the Super Bowl and then played one of the best games we've ever seen a quarterback play in the Super Bowl. So he gets a little bit more leeway than some of these other dudes that have done it for a year, but hasn't, I need to see it again. But you got Stafford out west, I think that's it for now. And then a healthy Kyler Murray would probably be in this discussion, but he's not healthy. So we're going to leave him out. And then you go up north, Jordan Love is a wild card. We've already talked about that. And then Kirk Cousins right now. And that's it. And then you got Justin Fields, and we'll see what he does this year. But it's got to be Cousins, Dak and Hurts, probably Derek Carr down south right now, and then Matthew Stafford out west. That's your 5. You put them in whatever order you want. But I don't think there's much of a debate right now. That's your 5. Now you put them in the order that you feel like they should be slotted. But that's, to me, the list right now. I'm not a Jared Goff guy, so I wouldn't put him in my list, because I don't think personally he can elevate. I think you have to have a fantastic team around him. He's a great manager of the game. He's like how, and it's probably not fair to him, but I think he's like Alex Smith. And I actually do think that's a good comp, because he doesn't really push the football down the field vertically. He will dissect you underneath and be extremely accurate in the short to intermediate game. But he's not really a down the field passer. So he's more of an Alex Smith type of guy. He could win a lot of regular season games with Jared Goff, and he's been to the Super Bowl, but we saw how he performed in that Super Bowl. I think that was the beginning of the end of him in Los Angeles. Is he really played poorly in that Super Bowl game against the Patriots. They scored 3 points. So anyway, I see Hurts, Dak, Cousins, Kyler, and Geno. I got to see Geno do it again he had a phenomenal year last year. I just got to see him do it again before I could put him on any list. He's not ahead of Stafford, though. Stafford just won a Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? No way. Kyler, I think, would have been in that mix had he been healthy. Even though I'm not a big Kyler Murray fan, I acknowledge the talent. But again, I'm not putting Kyler in there because he's injured. So anyway, I digress. Let's move on to the final topic of the show so we can get out of here. So last topic of the show, and maybe we can have a bigger quarterback discussion on another show. Hard Knocks. Hold on a second. Garbage time. Just got to let y'all know what time it is. Hard Knocks. Rumor has it that the NFL and HBO are leaning towards the New York Jets. Go figure. I mean, I think we've already done this exercise. I've already laid it out for you, the 3 teams, or is it 4? I think it was 4 teams that were eligible to be selected, and they couldn't do anything about it. We know the criteria. You got a new head coach. You don't have to be on. You can refuse to be on Hard Knocks if you've got a brand new head coach. If you made the playoffs in any of the last 2 years, you can refuse to be on Hard Knocks. So that's essentially the criteria. I think there may be one more thing, but I know those 2 in particular are the ones that really rule out a lot of teams. New head coach, been in the playoffs each of the any of the last 2 years. And it was like 4 teams that met that criteria: the Saints, the Jets, Washington, and I think there was one more team. But we said the Jets are the runaway favorite, right? Like, you got Aaron Rodgers. You brought in all these guys. It's a great storyline. It's New York. How is it not the Jets? So them leaning towards the Jets, not a surprise. It feels right. Feels like that's the way that they should go. And we just talked about Aaron Rodgers for like 5 minutes. He's a polarizing figure. It'd make for great theater, I believe. And then Robert Saleh is probably a great soundbite. I think the angle of following around Zach Wilson would be, to me, a really good angle. That would be a really good storyline. Like, your job has been taken. People think you're going to suck. You were the 2nd pick in the draft. I think that's a hell of a storyline. If I'm HBO, yeah, I'm gonna be in that quarterback room and I'm gonna be following Aaron Rodgers' ass around, but I'm gonna be all up in Zach Wilson's shit too, talking about his rookie season and all the controversy surrounding him and him not playing well and injuries, and I want to see what he's talking about. Like that's a hell of a storyline in itself. So anyway, there's plenty of storylines to go around with that Jets football team. I like to think that they'd be the option that they'd go with, but again, we will see. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 341st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Look forward to chopping it up with y'all on Wednesday. We'll come back and maybe we'll have a quarterback discussion. Then I may have some different topics that I want to discuss. We'll see. But we'll revisit the quarterback conversation. It's always a healthy debate every year. Changes. So we'll have some conversations surrounding that maybe at a later date and time. But in any event, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And when is game 3 of the NBA Finals? Is that Wednesday? I would assume it's Wednesday. I think Wednesday is probably accurate. They're changing venues. Yeah. So we should be back before game 3. So we'll talk more about it as we get a little bit closer. Anyway, I digress. Y'all get out of here. Enjoy the rest of y'all day. And if you haven't already done so, please check out MusicHead University. That's my other channel. I just put out another video today. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you get uploads. So if you love music, you happen to like the Louie T Network, it's a fusion of the two. So anyway, I digress. Y'all get out of here. Have a good one. God bless and good night. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Louie